All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Coach's Corner for another episode where we talk all things health and wellness from the mind, the body, and the behavior. And I want to welcome our special guest today, Marjorie Nass, coming to us from, where are you from again? Tell us.
I'm in La Jolla, which is in San Diego, California.
Beautiful California. We are so excited to talk about hormones with you today. All month long in my wellness community, we are talking hormone health. So this is a perfect conversation to have. So tell us, what do you know? Perimenopause, menopause symptoms that we're having. What should we be looking out for?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Gina. And when we're talking about perimenopause and menopause, the changes can start really slowly. And some women start with symptoms like in their late 30s or early 40s. So just like we all started our period, different years, the hormonal changes are going to begin at different times. And some of the first changes that can happen are with changes with your period. And so that might mean the length. It might mean the length of days. It might mean the length of the cycle itself, and it might change the flow a little bit. So those are all one of the first symptoms that can start. And a lot of women are like, oh, it's just stress, or maybe they had some kind of irregularity in the past, but that's one of the first things.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's different for everybody, right? How in the world did you get started talking about hormone health? What's your background?
Yeah, so my background started when I left a corporate career because my health was declining in many ways. I had GI issues and suffering with depression and things like that. And I wasn't getting too many answers from traditional practitioners. So I sought yoga and yoga's wellness science, which is called Ayurveda. And I healed at such a deep level that I really wanted to share this with other women. So I left corporate behind, and that was in my late 30s. And generally, I was working with women around my age, at that time, 30s, 40s, 50s. And I found that a lot of them were experiencing the symptoms, everything from hot flashes and irritability to excess weight. And the more that I taught them, the more I saw these patterns. But I wasn't having those as I went through my 40s. And so when I started to realize, this is not, just because it's common, it's not normal. So everything that I was applying in my life, I began to teach specifically around women in perimenopause and menopause, and the results were remarkable. So it doesn't have to be, it's not that you're definitely going to get the symptoms. There's so much that you can do. There's hope.
So were you using Ayurveda techniques to help yourself because you never kind of felt the crazy symptoms? How did that come about?
Yeah. So yoga, a lot of us know yoga as just physical or with meditation, but there's a whole science that's thousands of years old. And it's based on cycles. So daily cycles or rhythms, monthly rhythms, and seasonal rhythms. So the monthly rhythms are something that we can really sync to the moon and to the tides and all of those things. So it was partly that, but just general changes in routines and taking care of ourselves and making that a priority. So I was doing all of those things. And I like to say I sailed through perimenopause, and it was like a non-issue. Like it was slowing down and then it was gone, and that was it. And then I had these clients and friends, and they were really, really suffering. So that's why I created and decided to specialize in this group of women, because I know what it's like, and I'm still pretty close to what it was, but it doesn't have to be.
Yes. It doesn't have to be that way. I know people look at me cross-eyed when I say it doesn't have to be that way, because that's all that they've known. And when you only know sickness, it's really hard to conceptualize it. Really, there's a different way to be handling the change of life. And everyone's going to go through it. If you're a female, you're going to experience what some people call the second puberty. And it should be a time of, introspection. You have typically more time in your life because usually your kids are grown. You may have parents, aging parents that you're caring for, but for the most part, it's a time to come back to yourself and to recognize, oh, wow, these are some things that I really enjoy doing before I had kids, So it really is not only a shift in what's going on with your cycle and your health, but a shift in your life. It could be a really nice shift in your life, a transition, let's say, that we're going through. And you and I were talking before about what we're doing now, or even what we did 20, 30 years ago, really affects how we are feeling right now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Ayurveda is very interesting. And that word is a Sanskrit word, and it just means science of life or knowledge of life. And so I like to say that it's like a blueprint of how to live in a body well. So every step that we take, every habit that we do, every time we eat, we're either taking a step towards health or away from health. And it really can be that simple. And so yoga is about awareness if you practice yoga or any kind of meditation. So it's that awareness about the decisions that we're making every day for ourselves that we kind of don't think about. And, like when you were in your 20s or your teens, like older people were like, you have it so good. Like if I could be in my 20s again or whatever. And you're like, you don't believe it. You don't believe it because everybody else seems so old. But there is so much, like if we're not taking care of ourselves and we're drinking a lot or not taking care of our sleep, not, just being out all the time, that's going to create imbalances in the body. And the body has what we call waste. So every time that our eating is out of balance, our sleep is out of balance, it's like a waste that accumulates in the body. And it gets harder and harder to get rid of. We have Kelly here. Hello, Kelly.
It does get harder to get rid of. And one of the things I talk about a lot is constipation. And not only do I see this, in girls who are going through puberty and the changes, you'll notice in your cycle the times where you feel a little bit more constipated than others. For those of us who are still having a cycle, boy, I mean, if we are not getting rid of the excess estrogen, the excess hormone that's going through, or the other waste, your liver has to filter all the stuff that we're eating and drinking, your blood, all the things, right? So if we're not using our organs the way they were intended because they're clogged from all the things that we've been doing, it adds up. It just piles on top of each other. And I think that's what you're getting to, right?
Yeah, literally. And the number one question that we ask in Ayurveda is, how is your poop? How are your bowel movements? That is number one. We say digestion is king because that is the way that everything's going to function. And like you said, eliminating, we get clogged up. And then all the waste, all the toxins are not getting out of our system.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people don't even know what's going on, because it's too early, right? They think I shouldn't be going through this. I'm in my 30s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And I think that's why for many women, the symptoms start until the symptoms really start getting stronger or louder, that they're really not paying attention. And that's another thing that we kind of do. Many women are still doing it. It's like they're always little symptoms of what's going on. The body's always sending little messages, little whispers, I call them. And so if you ignore that, like, for example, if you wait to go to the bathroom until you can't wait anymore and it's not a systematic thing, your body will the messages will get louder and louder until you're forced to pay attention. So we're very external and the next thing, but coming inside and noticing how we feel and getting quiet and being like, no, this is going on with me. I need to pay attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And then becoming desperate, on the other end of the spectrum because you've waited so long and you go to the doctor, right? And a lot of times what happens there, oh, you must be depressed. So let me give you some anti-anxiety or, anti-depression meds, but not ever looking at the hormones or, not ever talking about, hey, what's going on with you? That typically doesn't happen. Now, of course, there are those doctors where it does happen, and that's fantastic. But for the most part, I don't think we get the help that we need. And so we come away from that feeling defeated, like, what in the world? This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I needed. And we're back at square one. What can we do? Or what is your best advice? Something, tangible, right? Because we're not all going to follow strict Ayurveda principles.
Yes. So we talked about paying attention, and that's the number one thing. And I would say the other thing is to make yourself a priority and to make sleep a priority. Sleep is the number one thing that can make the biggest changes. And it doesn't have to be like you're going to get up an hour earlier, you're going to sleep an hour more. It's like just having that wind down time before going to sleep. Because when you're tired, everything is more difficult. You're more snappy, you're more irritable. Things take longer when you're tired, and your digestion can be off when you're tired. So for a lot of women, we try to do things at the end of the day. We're catching up, we're cleaning up. We're so exhausted, we just want to lie on the couch and watch some show or something like that, or scroll through social media, too, when what our body really needs is sleep. And that extra half hour of watching a show or zoning out, like to get that deep sleep, that's the time. It's called rest and digest, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, and rest and digest. So that's when the body is digesting on a deeper level. So I always start with sleep. I always start with recommending more sleep. And, hormones are released during sleep as well. Because when you feel good when you wake up in the morning, the whole day is set up different. So if you're doing everything before you go to bed, things will take longer. And, it's so funny because when I was in college, I was never able to do an all-nighter. I just couldn't. I couldn't think anymore. I was falling asleep. So I would go to sleep and then I would wake up an hour or two earlier. And that worked for me. So that was already I guess I was kind of just listening to my body. And maybe it's because I never drank coffee to stick with it.
You're not addicted to the caffeine.
I'm not.
Yeah, sleep is also where I begin when somebody comes for health coaching because it is so vital. It's one of the ones that, you have to have. That's the beginner right there, is the sleep. And I even find that I'm hungrier. So not only is it affecting your digestion, it affects your hunger hormones as well. Nobody wants to be gaining weight during this time, but it seems like it happens more often than not that we're putting weight on during this time of transition in our hormones. So, oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever, but tell us what you have going on as far as programs. Where can people find you?
Well, thanks, Gina. Thanks for asking. I could talk with you all day long as well. My kindred spirit. So my website's marjorienass.com. And I have a group/individual program, Vibrant Through Menopause. And it has everything you need to going from struggling with excess weight and irritability and hot flashes and mood swings and exhaustion to feeling vibrant again, to feeling energized, to feeling sexy and even younger, and knowing that you have all the tools that you need for the rest of your life. So really for the second half of your life. And instead of feeling like this is it and you're getting old, you can enjoy the things that you want because you'll have the energy to do them and rediscover. Thank you for posting that, and rediscover what you love. And so you can check that out. And I also offer everyone a free breakthrough session. So that's to see if it's if there's a way that I can help through that, to see if this is the best path for you. And so you can watch my free masterclass, 5 Shifts to Thrive Through Perimenopause and Menopause, and then book a call with me so that I can help you to feel the best that you can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marjorie. This was so fun. And I look forward to having other conversations with you about all of this because there's so much to talk about. Sure. So thank you for coming on to the Coach's Corner. And until next time, you guys, if you have questions, reach out, get in touch with Marjorie or get in touch with me. And we would love to continue the conversation.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Gina.